Okay, we're going to mount the new digital thermostat to the wall. We have the wires coming out. And if you note, they put a sticker on the back of this thermostat. It says the red jumper wire between RH and RC must be removed on a 2-transformer system. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that we see. A lot of people call us and they put on a new thermostat in the wintertime, and it comes summertime and it's not working. It's because they removed this jumper wire. So it's very important, unless you have a 2-transformer system, which most people will not have that. You want to keep this jumper in place. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to take the screwdriver here. We're going to feed through. Now if you notice, it's going to kind of come through at a different angle. So you know you're going to have different holes. And so you want to try to cover up those holes the best you can. You want to put that torpedo level across the top of the thermostat. And you want to make sure that you're nice and level. And then you want to make marks into the drywall with, I just use a screwdriver. Now I take this back off the wall and I see where my new holes are. Now all thermostats are going to come with a kit with new anchors. Use what comes with the thermostat, and you want to use anchors, especially in drywall. You want to make sure that that thermostat is not going to go anywhere or come loose in a year or something like that. So always try to use the anchors if possible. And all I do is you take a screwdriver and you go ahead and poke through. Kind of move out. You don't want to do it too much, but you want to kind of get so this anchor can go in, like so. Now, you're going to try to push these in as far as you can with your fingers. Push this in on this side. And I usually just take a bigger screwdriver on the back and just kind of tap them to flush. There you go. Now you have your new holes for your new thermostat. And then go ahead and put this back on there. Run the wires through. And I'm just going to leave them hang through for right now. You want to get them started. Now one of the screw holes is going to have a slide to go this way, back and forth, left to right. The other hole is going to be up and down. You want to do the left and right. You want to get almost all the way in there after you have them started. Almost a snug, not quite. And what you want to do is bring it up. Now this is going to allow you the leverage to go up and down. You want to use your torpedo level one more time to put it across the top. And you want to keep that on the level, right in the center there. Bring that to snug to tighten that anchor down while keeping it level. Then you come over here and finish it off. Once we have the thermostat totally secured down and snug, we can go ahead and proceed with wiring. The other thing that you want to look at is there's going to be a toggle switch inside the furnace. It's going to say electric or gas. Depending on what style unit you have, you need to know if you have a gas furnace or an electric furnace. In this case, we do have a gas furnace, so I'm going to flip that switch over to gas. Now I'm going to start with the wiring. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pair of wire strippers, because the old thermostat wrapped the wire around a screw. These new ones just use a short, straight wire that goes into a little connector. I don't need this much exposed wire, and you don't really want a lot of exposed wire in there because that could create shorting. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off a little piece of that wire, and I'm going to start with W. Now remember, I'm not going to get caught up on the colors. It's W, goes into a W terminal, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slide that in there, and then there's going to be a screw that pushes down on top of that wire I just put in there, and I want it pretty snug in there, and I'm going to kind of pull on it a little bit just to make sure that it's snug. Now the next one down is RH, and I have that loop that goes over to RC. So my red wire really doesn't make any difference which terminal it goes in, whether it's RC or RH, as long as that jumper's there. So I'm going to cut this wire, and I'm going to loosen up the RH terminal just a little bit. I'm going to straighten this wire out, and I'm going to go ahead and push it in along with that jumper wire. So I'm going to have two wires in this one terminal. Now this is probably going to be the hardest wire to deal with because you're fighting with another wire in one small space. But once I get it in there, I'm going to push it in and I'm going to hold it down. And sometimes that jumper wire wants to come back out of there, so you want to kind of pull on both the R and that jumper on this side. And before I forget, I want to go ahead and snug the other side of that jumper wire down on the RC terminal. So now I have my W and my R hooked up. The next one I'm going to come down here for is going to be my Y wire. Now I have the Y on here. I'm going to trim this up a little bit. Now these thermostats are going to have extra terminals on them that you may or may not need depending on what scenario you have. There's going to be an O terminal. An O terminal, the O is for a heat pump, and a heat pump is for, you know, a reversing valve, and it tells the thermostat what to do. But at this point we just have a gas furnace, so we're not going to mess with any of that. Also, there's a C, which is the common terminal. And we're not going to deal with that one either. That is if we're not using battery power. We don't have battery powered thermostat, and we want power to come back from the furnace to power our thermostat. But in this case, we're going to use 2 AA batteries, and so the C is not going to be hooked up either. Trim this G. One more time, I'm just going to go back over the wires and make sure that they're nice and snug. Okay, now that's it on the wiring. You want to kind of push all the wiring back. You want to make sure that it's not sticking way out. You want to try to get it back in that hole as best you can. Make it look as neat as you possibly can. Make sure that you're still level. And then we're going to pull the level off. And I'm going to go ahead, and there's going to be a piece of paper that keeps the battery from activating the thermostat. Once we pull that off, you're going to see that that it lit up to 72 degrees. Now the next step, you're going to want to put the cover on. You open the cover on this particular model, and you want to line up all of the buttons, and you want to just clip on like that. And that's pretty much an installed thermostat. You want